I just did a short video series on the power of prosecutors and district attorneys that the Brooklyn Defender Services put out, and they had a bunch of voices in it. Adam Foss, who's a former assistant district attorney out of Massachusetts, DeRay McKesson, who is a spokesmodel for Patagonia blue vests and does some work on police reform, right. and a bunch of other folks. And something DeRay said has stuck with me. He's like, look, I have to remind myself that people built all these systems and we can build different systems. And when you think about the technology world, it is important to remember optimistically that the way we design systems can determine the outcomes we get. It's like architecture. It's like urban planning. You can design a city to divide people, to separate them from economic opportunity, to literally poison their water. Or you can design something that opens up the flow of business and creativity and community, brings people closer together, provides a cleaner ecology for folks to literally grow in. And I think where we are at with many of our technological environments is this is like early versions, and they're garbage. And there are built environments that create really negative outcomes for many. And it wasn't foreseen because the people who built them had no interest in foreseeing them. They were not representative of the user base. Their incentives were not to draw people closer together or engage in meaningful exchange. They were to sell each and every one of us, cut almost literally in 1,000 different slices, to advertisers so that they could sell us crap we don't want at prices we can't afford on credit that we should not have ever been extended. That's what we're living in. So it's not just like, oh, Twitter's bad or Facebook brings out the worst in us. They're bringing out the worst in us is their business model, and it's profitable, and it's driven by a funding model of venture capital and a 10x return mandate that says, well, the only way we can support this is to sell people, into a sort of very beautifully bullshitted story that comes down to a light version of slavery. Like we're selling people. We're selling our identities. We're selling our preferences. We're selling our relationship data. Facebook knows me way better than my girlfriend. Instagram knows me way better than my mother ever did. There's a very thin dotted line between how we see our communities, cities all across, not this country, but just the world. They all look the same. They're all being gentrified in the exact same way. They all have the same design aesthetic. They all have the same kind of Starbucks vibe. They all have the artisanal bacon ear, kale wrapped food truck village. Because we're just copying and pasting this stuff. And the people who live there didn't choose it. The people who have the resources to define a space did. So it's not a fair fight. You thought the cigarette lobby was hard. You thought just say no was wrong. Like, we are up against, the most addictive. We're up against consciously engineered addictive forces that would make R.J. Reynolds jealous.
So how do you see these platforms evolve in 10, 20 years? I mean, I don't know if you have kids, but I'm wondering, what kind of social platforms will Michelle's kids be interacting with in 10, 15 years? What's the future of Facebook and Twitter?
So Michelle's children will have more virtual friends than verifiably human friends in the future. We will have bot friends. We will have assistants that optimize the tiniest decisions in our lives in the way that we use Google Maps and don't know how to navigate our own cities without them now. For those of us who are really plugged into the smartphone, we don't know where we're going. We were a blue dot on a screen. And I think the worst version of the future is where we all become licensees, licensors of our own selves, where we don't even have a right to ourselves because actually Google owns more of us than we do. Or Equifax owns more of us than we do. And we are just subscribers. We are Spotifying ourselves to live our own lives. And we could be cut.
This is the playlist that you can use for your life.
Yeah. This is the food you can eat. This is where you can spend money. These are the friends you can have. These are the people you can have sex with. These are the places you can visit. That is a dystopic Black Mirror-like version of the future where we have to sign an end-user license agreement to be ourselves.
Yeah.
The alternative is one where we say, hey, And there's a possible coalition here where you get the libertarians and the property rights people and the civil liberties crowd together, and you're like, you know what? All that information is me. It is actually my property, my financial information, my GPS location data, my friend social graph. That's all parts of me, in the same way that my blood is me, in the same way that this bed that I'm sitting on belongs to me, and no one could just take it and then force me to pay for it again. So how do we change the balance of power that restores a sense of ownership and flips it on its head and says, all right, Google, you want to optimize my life. You have to sign an end user agreement with me to not lose all my crap, to encrypt my information, to be responsible, and to let me get my stuff back if I ever leave your service. And again, Google is just an example here. So that's what I want people to start advocating for and fighting for. I think it's a new front in a sort of human rights, civil liberties war that, it's really not about, it's the data gentrification. It's a new frontier of who owns what when the what is you.